Coming up in this episode, Scott and Woody are back at it in the Pro Stock Rescue Garage, continuing the rear Morrison Camaro rebuild. We'll take an in-depth look. Also, we'll continue our talk with Mark Pappas, the founder of the Midwest Nostalgia Pro Stock Association, and take a look at his multi-million-dollar collection of famous Pro Stock cars.
Why don't we do a TV show, put it all together, show rebuilding the cars, find an old car, tear it apart, step by step, show technically how this car is rebuilt, top to finish, every piece, every part, really show the whole thing to a complete functioning race car. And now you don't park it and put it in a car show. Now we have a series and these cars race. Everybody liked it. Sounded like a great idea. Most people were interested in thinking about how the cars are built. They wanted to see what was involved. How do you do this? Everything about the car. So I thought, wow, that could be more important than the racing. We'll tie them both together, and now we have something. Everybody liked it. We're talking to manufacturers. They're all coming on board. Everybody wants to help. So we start with a 1981 Camaro, which we're going to make the 81 rear Morrison Pro Stock car. Very famous car. Well, it took a while to find a car, 1981 Camaro. They're not all over the place. After weeks and weeks of looking, I found a car that this would be the car to completely tear apart and start over, and we would have a car almost identical to the original car with technical updates so you can go that fast, but it would get the job done. It would look exactly the same, and we could put on quite a show with it.
Here are several diagrams of the extensive modifications done to the driver's cage. The chassis didn't have the rear crossmember tube from rocker to rocker and connecting to the rear inner frame rails. We're cleaning off anything on the existing inner frame rails. Welding 4130 plates to the rocker panels and installing 1 5/8 083 tubes. This can be one complete tube or in 3 pieces. The center tube will be installed later. A new passenger side of the lower horizontal cage support tube is installed to replace the undersized tube that originally only supported the quarter panel. A main hoop support tube on each side is installed between the new rear crossmember tube and lower horizontal cage support tube. The main hoop is measured and a template is made to bend the 1 5/8 083 tube and fish mouth to fit. The main hoop is set in place, pulled tight against the original driver's side windshield roof tube, and welded in. The center portion of the rear crossmember tube is installed in a diagonal on each side. The passenger side had an undersized forward crossmember tube from the rocker to the main frame rail. It only supported the rocker panel because of the original 3/4 cage. Now the right side will be like the left side, which is required. The passenger side rocker tube is cut and soon to be fit. Center floor X braces are being installed between the inner frame rails, and a center section forward crossmember tube is now under the trans area. Additional support is added to the center floor X braces. The driver's side rocker tube is installed, 1 5/8 inch 083. The driver's door primary and secondary door diagonal tubes are fit and put in place. The passenger side windshield roof tube is tacked in, and the passenger side door primary and secondary door diagonal tubes are being fitted. The dash lower windshield tube is installed. Side floor triangulation tubes are installed on both sides along with firewall diagonals. The upper windshield halo tube is being installed. The passenger side primary and secondary door diagonal tubes are fit. These tubes will not be welded in until the car is further along, to make it easier to get in and out of the car. Starting on the funny car cage, some of the tubes will be fit and installed later for easier access to the car for the other projects. Cage gussets on upper windshield halo tubes are being installed. Support tubes from inner frame rails to the center section forward crossmember tube under the trans area are being installed. Fitting support tubes next to the Lenco transmission. Support tubes being installed on each side from the 4-link bracket to the support tube next to the Lenco.
The main part of the funny car cage was put in when the main hoop was built. So our main concern now is to finish up the funny car cage, the forward portion and the upper portion. But our goal was to have it roomy enough for the driver where it was comfortable, because some tend to get tight and your helmet hits. So Woody will tell you about what we did to get that room.
Well, basically we put a mock-up seat in here, put Scott in here with a helmet, kept moving this fore and aft, this tube here that goes in front of your head, until we had a pretty decent situation for him to lean forward, get out of the car with his helmet on. Once we determined that, then we played with the seat that was going to go in the car so that we could get enough room over the top of his head to get some tubes in, which aren't required by SFI, but we put in addition to the regular roll cage tube here, we put 2 over his head. This one here, which is 1.5 inches, and this 1.5 inch tube here are entirely over the top of his helmet, and he's got good clearance above it, so we got a lot of extra protection that isn't required by NHRA.
First off, you have to remember, every day I go to work, when I do my job, I'm not only accelerating somebody to 200 plus miles an hour, I'm slowing them down, and if they turn the car over, I've got to protect them.
While everybody was gravitating towards the nitro stuff, I was just fascinated by the pro stock cars. And as I got older and my car hobby kind of picked up, I got more and more interested in pro stock cars, and I would go to the national events for the sole purpose of just watching the pro stock cars. When the pro stock cars were done, I'd be the guy running out of the stands when everybody was, oh, here comes the nitro cars. And I would just kind of gravitate to the pits and watch them. And the one pit I kind of gravitated to was Rear Morrison at the time and Bill Jenkins. And, you know, then life called, you know, getting married, having kids. Always kind of had a hot rod thing. And I kind of got back into drag racing with some gassers, and I saw a little glitch in Good Guys one day that said Good Guys was thinking about introducing Nostalgic Pro Stock into their growing Nostalgic Top Fuel, Nostalgic Funny Car circuit. And when I found out that was true, I think that was the middle of November, and I verified it by December 1st, and I went to work on the Rear Morrison car and debuted it Memorial Day 2010, you know, within 6 months. And then it kind of really just snowballed from there. I met some great people along the way, and I've had a lot of help, and it seems right now to have a endless, you know, possibility of growth. Bill Neri, myself, Scott, Woody, we all got our start in Chevelles, and that Chevelle thing always stuck to me. I had a '66 Chevelle. To this day, I think is the coolest car on the planet. And I tried to get the car back when I became an adult, and we came within, 2 states, 2 months. This never materialized. And a friend of mine told me about Roger Ausley, who was a big North Carolina Chevelle guru. He's Ausley Chevelle parts. He had that car on the showroom floor, and I just called up, actually trying to get some parts. And you talk about the right time, the right day. He decided after 10 years he was taking that car off his floor, and the offer was something I couldn't pass up. It was my 2nd year in business, and after 2 hard years of opening up my own business, I rewarded myself with an anniversary present. And that, with the Willys, is one of my fondest cars. That might be the fondest car I have here. I think that Chevelle thing, if you're a Chevy guy and it's something about that SS on the grill and the big block, the vinyl top. And I did everything with that car. It was my hot rod at the time when I first had my young kids, and I'd go out to the track once or twice a year, and then I cruised at hot dog stands. And I'm proud to say right now, we'll not see any more drag strip duty. My cousin did a frame off on that. It's only a 16,000 mile car to start with, but that car is pretty, and we'll drive it around once in a while to the hot dog stand, car shows. But that's earned its right to be retired from all drag strip and thrashing duties. The next one is a 1941 steel Willys Little Trip. It's got its origin is actually Hawaii. It was a drag car in Hawaii, then Southern California. It's a really, really cool car. It's unique in the fact that it's very streetable. It's a car that's capable of mid to low 9-second runs, and straight as an arrow. Very, unlike the gasser cars, which would kind of wander back and forth. It's probably one of my favorite cars. I actually, my son, who at the time was probably 5 or 6, liked the car because there's a dog on the trunk, and he always wanted the dog car. And oddly enough, I was a 57 Chevy guy, Corvette guy, a Chevelle guy, but I wasn't a Willys guy. This particular Willys caught my eye, and I pursued it for 2.5 years, and I was finally able to acquire it. And it's one of my, I love them all, but that's one of my fondest cars there in the shop. That is a real 1957 Corvette, and I was running, local car group here, a gasser group actually, up at, through northern Illinois, and it kind of evolved. It started out with, a pump gas junkyard big block that I bought it as a roller, put a big block in it, and then, my cousin applied the paint job, which is, if you looked up close, it's very, very tricky. That car, actually, when we first unveiled that car, it won a runner-up competition car at World of Wheels Chicago, which is a big World of Wheels show. Very proud of that. My cousin, it's a locally done car, and we kind of turned it into, it's taken all different directions. First it was a power tour car, then it was a gasser car, and right now it's just, we kind of got to where it is. It's deep, frame off. It's got a very potent rear Morrison motor in it. Very capable of low 8-second runs. It's gone 8:39, I believe, is the fastest it's gone. But again, that car, I feel confident in getting in it and driving it 10 miles to a car show and coming home with no issue. That is a 40 Willys. That is a head-to-toe car, which right before this Pro Stock thing really took off, I was already doing the Pro Stock thing. I was trying to keep my foot in the door with the gasser thing, and this gasser group that runs, through the Midwest, Iowa, Ohio, Detroit, they frowned on my Little Trip Willys here because it didn't have a straight axle, and I said, man, I want to really run these gassers. And I had a pretty cool split window at the time, and I wanted to get this Willys from a friend of mine, and the only way I could get it from him is he wanted my split window. I said, made a deal. And the first time I actually ran it, I kind of looked at myself and said, Mark, you got drag cars. Why are you taking, to find a real steel Willys, steel head to toe, is pretty hard to come by right now. And that car is pretty immaculate. And I said, it's got the big ladder bars on it, so no matter how hard you leave or don't leave, it goes straight up in the air and it bounces. And the first time I ran it, I just said, how many times do you do this before you scrape the wall? And so it's kind of, you know, as the pro stock thing got bigger anyway, that's kind of taken its place as a, you know, a museum piece right now, unfortunately. I don't even drive that on the street, to be honest with you. It just, it's I have, but it's just not a real, it's not a car you ever feel comfortable in. You're always afraid something's going to happen, and I'm not like that, but I don't have a real good feeling in that car. So it's a cool car, you know, I'm really proud to have it, but you know, I don't see that making many more drag strip passes either. It is a SRD Monza. For the early pro stock guys, they know the significance of that. The story in that one goes, I'm fortunate enough to do a couple NHRA events, Divisional 3 events, and over the course of the year, some comp racers and super stock racers always come up and talk to me. About 3 years ago, a fellow came up to me and said, my friend, my crew guy's got an SRD Monza, he wants to get in with you guys. And I gave him the information, and a year later he was like, you know, he wants to sell it, but he doesn't want to sell it to someone who's going to turn into a bracket car. And really didn't want to buy it, really didn't want to do another project. You know, I was just finishing the Vega, and you know, one thing led to another. I got the car, and we were originally going to say, okay, we've done the Jenkins thing, there's a lot of tribute Monzas out there. I was actually going into another veteran drag racer that ran Monzas back in the day. And, you know, they were hot and cold. First they were on it, then they weren't on it. It was hard to get pictures from the family and everything. And one day while talking to the guys at Jenkins, who were going to do the motor anyway, I said, gee, Jake, I don't know why I just don't do the Monza. He goes, Mark, he goes, we've been sitting here racking our brains wondering why you, of all people, aren't going to turn into a Jenkins Monza. I said, well, there's so many out there, they're tribute cars, and Jake said, we'll stop right there. To my knowledge, none of the Monzas out there have Jenkins motors in them. None of the Monzas out there would have Bill's blessing if he was still with us. And we went no further. So on that particular car, I took a few liberties. I tried to make it, you know, like these cars here all have the same color that Bill used, which is Ford. The red is Ford 1956 Ford Fiesta pickup truck red. The white is GM White Emron, I believe it's called, and Bill knew that off the top of his head. I said, okay, we're going to do another Monza, but we're not going to put a tribute number on it. We're just going to put Grumpy's Toy Tribute on it, and we're going to do the candy apple red with a faint gold leaf stripe and try to make it a pretty car. But it's a pretty unique car. It's an SRD Monza that's never been converted to a bracket car. That car has been a Lenco car from the day it was built. A couple guys in the room here actually bailed me out. Woody and Scott Venny saw that. In a nice way, told me, you know, maybe you should look at this before you take that down the track. And I was smart enough to realize, step back and let the geniuses do their work. And Woody and Scott built me a correct front end. And we have not taken it down the track right now, but the work Woody did on that thing and Scott is just state of the art. I can't wait to take a pass for it. Rumor has it somebody else in this room might be making a pass in it, but I don't want to start any gossip.
So thanks to Rear Morrison Racing Engines, Strange Engineering, Brill Battery, Quick Fuel Technology, Hoosier Racing Tire, Aurora Bearing Company, Brow Bell Housings, Lenco Racing Transmissions, Flaming River, Billet Specialties, Jazz Products, TW Metals, Lamb Components, Moroso, Chassis Shop, Liberty's Gears, White Safety Equipment, Optic Armor, Precision Powder Coating. This is Al Tucci. Remember to enjoy every episode of Pro Stock Rescue.